Here. Good. Good night.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I already messed it up. Got it.
This is my short day. So I have I'm 6 o'clock. Sierra call this December 14th, 2021 Fairfield County School Board meeting to order. We have been duly notified. We would entertain a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we enter executive session for superintendent's evaluation and personnel matters, provided I get a second.
Okay.
Motion has been made by Ms. Harris, second by, who was it? Green. All in favor, show by the raising of the right hand. We have 7-0. We're going to go into public session. Excuse me, executive session, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Executive session. We won't be in there no longer than 6:30. Probably shorter than that, so we should be out before 6:30. Thank you. You got no Christian. This time, Chair will entertain a motion to exit the session. No action will take.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we exit executive session.
I second such motion.
Motion made by Sarah, second by Dr. Harris. Executive session, all in favor, show by raising of the right hand. We have 7. Oh, thank you. I'd just like to, at this time, welcome everyone to our December 21st board meeting. You know, we have great support from this district. And thank everyone, all the parents, all our children, just to take the time and thank you. This time we will have our basically flag and moment of silence. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we want to approve the agenda for this meeting.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
We have a second.
Yeah, that's right.
Motion made by Ms. Harris to approve the agenda as presented, second by Pastor Jackson. All in favor? Show by raising the right hand. We have 7. Do we have any public comment? No, sir. Mr. Chair, we don't have any public comment. Thank you. At this time, we will have a student recognition. Give this to our illustrious superintendent, Dr. J.R. Green.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to have Dr. Avery to join me as we recognize these outstanding Griffin scholars from Fairfield Middle School who have done an absolutely remarkable job on last year's summative assessment. And you know, doing a good job is always impressive, but particularly in this whole COVID environment. Right. So these young people were navigating quite a bit on last year, but they managed to perform at the highest level, even in the midst of COVID-19. I'll turn it over to Dr. Avery.
Good evening once again. We are proud to recognize the following scholars. If Mr. Brunson, if you could come forward. Mr. Brunson is the proud principal of Fairfield Middle School. Is that going to join Mr. Brunson? Thank you.
As Dr. Green stated, these students last spring, in the midst of the pandemic, were able to achieve the highest level, which exceeds in ELA and math on the state level assessment, which for the middle school is the SC Pass. At this time, I would like for Zia Carabo to come forward.
Please. All right.
Nishi Patel.
Oh, Daddy, get a picture of that. You got it? Come on back.
Yeah.
Good job, good job.
Jalen Thomas. Whitney Wilson. Martha Douglas. Eddie English. Kingsley Green. Ron Samuel. And Javon Sims. All of the students for Fairfield Middle School, round of applause.
So much. Again, thank you. It takes all of us. It just doesn't take the parents, it's a village to raise a child. So whether it's the parents, the grandparents, guardians, ministers, teachers, we thank everyone. And this is a product. We got some of the smartest, brightest kids in this state. You can even say this nation right here in Fairfield County. So thank y'all. Thank you, parents. Thanks. Time from our board minutes from the November 21st, November 16th meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a recommendation, we approve, accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the minutes from the November 16th regular call board.
Motion made by Ms. Harris on November 16th, 2021, regular school board meeting, seconded by Dr. James Harris. All in favor, so by the raising of the right hand. That is 7. Over. Thank you. At this time, we're going to hear our superintendent report.
Chairman Miller, members of the board, a couple of items I'd like to bring to your attention. First of all, on last Thursday, 12/9, I joined 6 other superintendents in the village to sign what was the Be Smart MOU. And Be Smart is an initiative where we are collaborating to really communicate the importance of gun security, ensuring that for those gun owners that we effectively secure our firearms so they don't fall in the hands of young people. As we look at some of the tragedies that occurred throughout our country over the last several years, there's nothing good that comes out of a young person having possession of a firearm. And so this is not a debate about the Second Amendment or rather people should own guns or not. As I mentioned during the press conference, it is if you do own a gun, let's effectively secure that gun so it doesn't fall in the hands of a young person. So we will be collaborating with many aspects of the community to really talk about how we get that word out so we can ensure that we avert some of the issues that have occurred in communities across this country. You know, too often we are reactive. When something happens and we talk about what we could have done or what we should have done, and we were being proactive and trying to put things in place so we don't get to the point of the tragedy occurring. So I will be providing more information. We'll be getting feedback from the community and leaders in the community to really talk about what we can do to ensure that we don't have a situation where a firearm falls in the hands of young people. The calendar surveys are in, and I was a little surprised by the results. But the modified balanced calendar came in a little behind the traditional calendar. I don't know if that's a surprise or not, Mr. C. Okay. So 53% of the respondents indicated that they are in favor of the traditional calendar, while 46% indicated that they are in favor of moving forward a modified balance calendar. What really stood out to me is, out of the multiple categories of respondents, district employees, parents, students, and teachers, students were the only group where the majority wanted to do the modified balance count. So students, the majority of students wanted the modified balance calendar. Actually, 54% of students said, let's go to modified balance calendar, while 45% preferred the traditional calendar. District employees, 64% said, let's leave it with a traditional calendar. Parents, right at 50-50, when it was 53% of parents said, I want to keep the traditional calendar, and 57% of teachers indicated they would prefer to keep the traditional calendar. Now, the question is, what do I recommend to the board? I'm about to pray on that and think about that. Let's see what's saying. I don't know. Obviously, we've discussed some of the benefits of the modified balance calendar. You all really felt it was, it had some potential. But the problem is when you ask people for their input, many times you want to honor their input. And so you say, well, the majority wanted to do a traditional superintendent, why do you recommend a modified balance? Why do you ask if that's what you want to do? So it's probably likely that I will probably make a recommendation that's in line with the survey results. Not Ms. Green looking at me shaking her head. That's not a stone, Ms. Green. You say that is likely. Is there any thoughts relative to our calendar options?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Well, it's whatever, I guess majority rules, but I just felt like that it would be a change and give them time to regroup from after coming back from summer and then going all the way to November to get a break. I just feel like that week would have probably been like, ooh, they did it for the first year, the first semester, they've been like, oh, I like this, we went through the first, we had a week off, and now we go to November, now we have some more time off, we go to December, we got more time, but I just felt like that it would have given the teachers the opportunity to not be burnt out so much, and the kids not be burnt out. And also, I know some teachers probably don't want to agree to coming and being here a week while they out, but I mean, it could have been an option where we sent a package home because we have sent packages home before where the kids kind of work on their own. But hey, whatever you say and whatever majority says, I mean, I'm okay either way. So, but
yeah. So, Ms. Harris, I probably would agree with your sentiment. I think if we implement a modified balance calendar, a lot of them who indicated they don't support it will support. That's what I heard from my colleagues. After the first year, and they got that break, and they said, man, this is good. We will never go back to a traditional. It's just that first year at least going from a traditional to modified balance.
Ms. Green.
I believe that they would have enjoyed the modified schedule as well. My only thing was, I don't know if they had enough time to think about it. They weren't presented early enough to make a decision and have a discussion with other people that have implemented. Because I know North, it's the thing, and it's very beneficial to everybody to have those big breaks. Another concern that I believe they had was if the remote learning days were going to be injected into that modified schedule, because they've seen none of those. So if you didn't have that week, you had a whole month straight with no remote learning.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Avery spoke about that today. She said she got some feedback from teachers who indicated if the remote learning days were included in the calendar option, they would have selected.
Exactly.
So, obviously, it's something to consider as well.
you go back and y'all go back and tweet it and send it out, or y'all, that's the you can tweak it a little bit.
We want to definitely satisfy our teachers and students and what's best for them. So, that's, want to go back and look at it again. So do it. Mr. Singh, you got something?
No, I don't have anything. I'm not a teacher anymore. But when I was a teacher, one of the main things people look forward for was having that summer off. No matter what they had to endure to get there. That was the main thing they look forward to have the entire summer off.
So the city feel as if shortening the summer.
I think that's probably what the nail in the coffin. That I don't feel like I have a summer.
And all of those are very valid points. And all of those are very, very valid points. With that said, Mr. Siebels, based on individuals who have done it prior to us, the extra weeks during the year has made up for the loss in summer. Okay, and I obviously, before you experience it, it's hard for you to really talk about how you feel about it. But for districts like Kershaw, who've been doing it for a couple of years, if you talk to the superintendent there and the feedback from his staff, they said, we're not going back to this. We love that. But I respect any professional who views it and says, no, I don't think that's necessarily what we do. So,
I did have a conversation with a couple of folks, and their take on it was, hey, I can go on here, cruise through. And they were telling me they want to set the cruise up so they can do it during December or doing, February, just getting past this. And I guess they had been talking to some of the other districts, and so they were for it. I'm listening. I'm listening. Me too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them gonna approve in October too. Yeah.
well, I would ultimately make a recommendation to the board that the board can accept or ignore Mr. Siebel. You can always accept or ignore my recommendation. It's simply a recommendation, and you have the authority to approve what you feel is appropriate. But a recommendation is forthcoming. I hate that we are meeting right now, and I can't be at the high school observing the Fairfield Central High School Winter Art Showcase, which begins at 6:30 tonight. And I told us as soon as I can come, I will be there. Our arts department is just doing an absolutely phenomenal job. So we'll have band represented, orchestra, dance, and choral music. And so if you get an opportunity to get out here in time, stop by high school and observe some of the outstanding art students. Speaking of art students, they performed at Mr. Davis's place of business last week, I think it was, last Wednesday, I think it was the state, at Isola. The band, the orchestra, and the chorus performed. And I called because I had another meeting. I regret I was unable to make it, but I called Dr. Swilly right after the performance and asked her how did it go. And she told me, said, Superintendent, literally there were people in tears. She told me literally there were people in tears because the performances were so moving. And so that if moving someone to tears doesn't speak to how powerful it was, I don't know what it does. So they did an absolutely remarkable job. And they are scheduled to perform again tomorrow at the Providence MUSC hospital drop-in right in Fairfield. So yeah, it's going to be at the hospital. It's going to be at the emergency freestanding ED. So they will perform tomorrow. I think that begins at 6 o'clock. But at least two of those groups, I know the orchestra and the chorus and possibly the band are going to perform at their drop-in. So they've done an absolutely wonderful job this year. Isola made a donation to the arts department of $500. So we appreciate Isola. The arts department. Anything else you'd like to add in that regard, Mr.
I was named the board members, students and staff did a truly amazing job. And what you stated was about the people that was in tears, they really were in tears. That our CEO was actually there, and he said like, he was embarrassing his own kids because they couldn't sing or perform or had the talent that our students had. Like I said, they were so overwhelmed that they gave a donation of $500 to the arts department, as well as adopting 3 families from the agency. So they look forward to doing a lot of things with the district in the near future. So I'm really pleased with everything. I felt that he was very well now, and he just did a great job. Overall, that's actually his first performance since the pandemic. That Dr. Sweet said, and it's first time that performance is great. Thank you for allowing us to come out.
Well, Mr. Davis, we appreciate you. Obviously you had a lot to do with setting that up and coordinating that and inviting the students. And so we'd like to thank you for bringing that community partner to the forefront. We're trying to establish as many community partners as we can. And so we appreciate Isola, who has indicated that they're also interested in trying to partner with us to identify prospective employees for that industry. So please offer them our heartfelt thanks for that partnership. Now we move on to COVID-19. Get that up from here. Our district updates. Before we left for the Christmas, for the Thanksgiving break, we were doing absolutely wonderful. I don't think we had any student cases. I don't think we had any staff cases before we left. Mr. Siegel, as you can imagine, didn't necessarily stay that way. And we generally see an uptick in COVID-19 over any extended holiday break. We've seen it throughout the state of South Carolina. We've seen it throughout the nation. And so we've also seen it in Fairfield County. And so the week of December 6th and 10th, we saw 4 positive student cases and 20 quarantines. It's important to note that some of those quarantines may have been impacted by people who came into close contact with a confirmed positive outside of Fairfield County. So in other words, your relative was positive for COVID-19 over the Thanksgiving break. Therefore, you went into quarantine before you even returned back to school after the Thanksgiving break. So 4 positive cases and 20 quarantines relative to students. Just looking at the graph, as I said, we were at 0 before we left. So you see that slight uptick. Okay, of those 4 cases, we had 1 at FMS, 1 at Fairfield Magnet, and 2 at McCoy Elizabeth. Staff cases, as I said, we were at 0. December 6th through the 10th, we had 2 positive cases, 0 quarantines. We were doing great prior to the Thanksgiving break. A slight uptick. We're hoping that we get back to 0 very soon, but that's not to be. That's not unexpected coming out of the break. Obviously, the question that we always get is, well, how are you going to respond to these increases in cases? And we are at a point where I would make a different recommendation to the board to change our protocol. And so the primary protocol that we've implemented has obviously been masking. And we are still implementing a policy where we are encouraging masking, but not mandating masking. Elementary students are still doing a very good job masking. Our middle school students are still doing a very good job masking. Our high school students are doing a okay job masking. Okay, and so We aren't necessarily doing as good at high school level as we are at the middle and elementary, but we know how some of our teenagers can try and be a little contrary. But we are at a point where I'm making a recommendation to the board that we implement a mask mandate. However, if we begin to see the numbers trend upward, we will revisit that. Any questions?
Dr. Green, I would like to have a question, to somebody else. So, because my son, he did turn 7, I think last week. And at Wednesday, he actually took his COVID shot. He said, Dad, it didn't hurt. I'm glad I took it because I did get sick. And he took the flu shot as well. So, I would encourage any parent, the child's over age, to go out and get it. There's been a lot of people say we didn't want to get sick. That's why.
I appreciate you sharing that, Steve. And obviously, we are encouraging our families to get vaccinated once it was approved for all students 5 or older. We aren't doing very good in that regard. I think the last report I saw, less than 20% of students across the country in that age group were vaccinated. And I think the numbers are even lower in South Carolina. If my memory serves me correctly, it may be around 5 or 6% in South Carolina. So the numbers are very low, which continues to perplex me, because when you look at our vaccination rates with polio, measles, mumps, it is extremely high, because we have created a culture where the expectation is that your children receive those shots. But with COVID-19, the numbers are extremely low. So hopefully that improves, because I think that's going to be the key to us mitigating the spread of some of these new variants that are coming to the forefront.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Green, well, I know I shared on Facebook, but I talked to Dr. Green about it. The feed Fairfield, we are doing that on this Sunday at the middle school. And one of our former students, Nikita P, she is a registered nurse now, and their clinic is coming to partner with us to actually give the shots. You can get COVID tests, and they're gonna actually do ages 5 and up. So if anybody, wanna take the test or either have a shot, they're gonna do it at the middle school with us from 1 to 4, Sunday the 19th.
Ms. Harris, I appreciate you arranging that. And I'll tell you, if my youngest daughter had met the requirements to get her booster, she would be to get the booster. I looked at her date, but they want you to wait 6 months after your second shot before you get your booster. And she wouldn't have reached that 6-month threshold until January. But I told my daughter, as soon as they approve for those students, I guess 16, what is that age, but I know 16 years to get booster. She's 16. I said, well, I'm taking her to get a booster. She said, well, no, we can't do it quite yet. She had been up to a 6-month threshold. But had it not been for that, she would be in there getting a booster shot as well. We appreciate that, Ms. Ash. Any other questions? Okay. That's all I have this year.
Great, Doc. Thank you. It's time for curriculum discussion. Our favorite.
Good evening. For your approval this evening are the local design elective courses for local board approval for Fairfield Middle School and Gordon Odyssey Academy. Based upon Regulation 43-234, locally designed elective courses must be approved by the local board of trustees. And based on an analysis conducted by Fairfield Middle School, it was determined that an intervention program will be implemented beginning January 2022 for Fairfield Middle School and Gordon Honesty Academy. And this intervention program, entitled Math 180, is an engaging, motivating digital math intervention software program, which will provide foundational skills to help close skill gaps, to help increase our students' algebraic thinking. The recommended action states the superintendent recommends the board approve the locally designed elective courses for the 21-22 school year for Fairfield Middle School and Gordon Honesty Academy.
Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the locally designed elective courses for the 2021-22 school year for Fairfield Middle and Gordon Honesty Academy.
That's right. Motion made by Ms. Harris, second by Pastor Jackson. All in favor, show by the raising of the right hand. Thank you, Dr. Abram. Say, thank you for all you do. I know a lot of time we got. Finance. Operations finance.
Good evening. In the board package, you have the finance report for the month of November. And the report's fairly normal for this time of year, and actually our local tax revenues are a little bit more this time of year compared to last year, which may just be a function of not being in the initial stages of the pandemic, but everything else looks fairly normal. Folks, for your review, any questions?
Mr. Robinson, could you elaborate a little bit on this, where we were last year and with the food service, let folks know what has happened with that.
And actually, I think you're referring to probably our financial results, and just to bring everyone up to speed, we were scheduled to have our audit presentation next week, but the auditors, they had other obligations for this week, so they could not be here for this Tuesday once we changed the meeting. But that will be scheduled for the meeting in January. In a nutshell, we were planning on having $1 million taken out of the fund balance for last fiscal year. We ended up taking out 1.1 million, which I think is excellent given the circumstances and given the fact that our budget was really a carryover from the previous year. So we didn't have a chance to plan a separate budget for the year and given what was going on with the state and their revenues. I think we ended up in pretty good condition, but because of COVID and not having as many students in the schools physically, we didn't have as many students participating in our food service program. As a result, our revenues were much lower because a lot of that based on participation. We still maintain some of the same costs for labor. We still pick some meals virtually that, some people did not participate in. And so that ended up having a negative impact on our food service program. And the fund balance that they had basically was whittled down to zero, which means that the general fund last year had to pick up any overage for that program. But that we really anticipated was a function of the unique situation that we incurred last year with not having students in. And so that impacted our general fund. Now, without that, we think we would have been about 500,000 would have been taken out of the fund balance instead of 1.1 billion, which means we would have done much better than anticipated. So we hope everything's kind of back to normal this year, given that we have students back in school and we can see even better results this year. But that presentation will be done next month.
Anybody got any questions for Russ? Thank you, sir. HR.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This evening, under Human Resources, item 1, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified resignations and terminations to be effective at the conclusion of academic year 2021-22. These are presented to you in exhibits 1A and 1B.
Motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation approval, to approve certified resignation termination to be effective at the conclusion of academic year 2021-22.
You get a second.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Harris, second by Mr. Siegels. Notice HR, so you know, have any questions on it. All in favor, show by raising the right hand. That will be 7-0.
Item 2, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified professional educators for the 2021-22 academic year. These recommendations are presented in exhibit 2.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a recommendation, we, accept the superintendent recommendation to approve certified professional educators for the 2021-22 academic year, exhibit 2.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Harris, second by Mr. Siegels. All in favor, show by showing raising the right hand. That will be 7-0. Thank you, Ms. So. We're on now to board chair report. Just wanted to just kind of piggyback off Dr. a little bit. Talked about our arts and what we got having this evening over to it's got an auditorium. So how long is this gonna last, Dr. Green?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, it starts at 6:30. Those programs go about an hour and a half. I think it's
You can go by and see, catch a little bit of it. And, also, we got some other things that's going on with the school district. Sarah, you got something?
Yeah, I want to kind of share with y'all on the Delegate Assembly. And what it is resolutions that are adopted and voted on by the Assembly and then sent to legislation. Some of it is already in line with the laws are saying, and or they just make suggestions that they change the wording in it. And just to share with you a few that they want to change is on board hiring a superintendent. And the language just that the FCSDA believes that the superintendent as the district's chief executive officer should be hired and performance reviewed by the board of trustees. So they just changed the language to just add in performance reviewed by the board. And so that was one that passed. And then another one was the discussion about students dropping out at the age of 17. Of course, most of them are juniors. So they wanted to raise the age limit to 18 at least. So that one passed. And it was another one for I think it was on mental health. Yeah. So they wanted the school district to provide services, so they took out just some wording for the needs of the students and staff on mental health. So that one I kind of think that they sent it back to Deb and them to tweak it, and because they couldn't get it right on that one. So, and there was another one that didn't pass. I think we probably might be the only district, or maybe some of that have the 3-year and 4-year program. I don't really think no other district have them. But what they wanted to do is to have money for every district to allow the 4-year-olds to start school. That was the fight, because most people say they can't provide, they don't have the space for 4-year-old program. Well, I didn't have to argue there because we do 3 and 4 years. We don't have a perfect back. So they went back and forth about that one. So I don't think that one passed, but I mean, if anybody want to copy the resolutions, I mean, I guess you can get it from, down there at FCSD. But it's just resolution that's passed and sit down there so they can kind of tweak it, or either it's already in line with what they already voting on, or they're taking consideration of what we're asking them to do. Because they work for us, we vote them in, so they, they have to kind of take in consideration what we want. But thank y'all for sitting me down, it was very interesting.
Anybody else got anything else, in regards to that? I just wanted to, I didn't get a chance to make it to neither one of the parade, the Winsboro parade, or neither the parade in Ridgeway, but I heard it was nice. And so, it's a good thing. And, I think it's just right here, we're getting ready to go out on our Christmas holidays. So, we urge everyone to be safe. My classmate told me to stop saying that last time I was at reunion, and I said it's going to be somebody here it's not gonna make it back the next year, and I was right. Well, let's remind folks to be safe during these holidays, so we can see them back in January. It doesn't, because you're in the right, it doesn't mean that you can't get in a wreck. You have to watch out for the other guy. So, in saying that, can we get a adjournment? Motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you, sir. Motion made, Ms. Harris, second. By Green to adjourn. All in favor, so by raising the right hand. Meeting is adjourned.
We need it. I should get that by now. I don't know. Rachel, I have to go. We need to go. Yeah, no chair.